Hey, Elaine.
Hey, Mark.
I need your help.
I'm here to help, Mark.
You're not going to like this. But
Oh, no. Well, I'm not actually. I'm out the door. Sorry, find someone else.
I need your movie-related help.
Oh, is it something that requires me to memorise something or know something from the past?
No.
Right.
You're familiar with the film The Naked Gun?
Yes.
See previous podcast.
Yes, I am. That guy, Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
And
Other people
who's
who
the
are
female
funny?
lead?
I don't know. Priscilla Presley.
Yes. So, Film Spotting, another
Yes.
podcast that I listen to a fair bit,
Yeah, and I do as well. You told me about them.
do a competition, sort of competition each couple of weeks where the two hosts reenact a scene and you have to guess what the scene is. Someone has to write in and you win a t-shirt or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And this week, or a couple of weeks ago, they did The Naked Gun. I need to play you a clip
Right.
from that. Can you edit in the clip that we're playing?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Okay.
I've heard police work is dangerous.
It is. That's why I carry a big gun.
Aren't you afraid it might go off accidentally?
I used to have that problem.
And what did you do about it?
I just think about baseball. Hey, that's a honey of an ankle bracelet you have there.
Oh, did it slip down there again?
So, for those of you who've not seen The Naked Gun, Frank Drebin, Leslie Nielsen, is looking through some police records. He's kind of in a little flirty relationship with Priscilla Presley. And he turns and says to her, "That's a honey of an ankle bracelet you've got there." And she says, "Oh, did that slip down there?" And pushes it up her leg. Mm-hmm. What is that jerk?
Oh. It's the bracelet was originally on her wrist, and now it's slipped down to her ankle.
So, I first saw this when I was 10.
Right.
And I just assumed it was some sort of sex joke that I wasn't getting when I was 10.
Right.
I have since looked up this joke.
Yeah.
And there appears to be quite a few threads online of people going, explain this joke. There's 3 things that people are saying it might be. One is that it's a wrist bracelet that's slipped down to her leg.
That's what I mean, yeah.
One is that it's a garter that's slipped down.
Okay, so that would typically be at
Yeah.
the top of the thigh, right.
And one is that it's some sort of sex toy, which is what I assumed when I was like 10, but obviously doesn't really make any sense at all.
No, it doesn't.
I don't understand how it can be something on a wrist.
Right. That's then slipped.
Because she's wearing a different bracelet on her wrist. Like, this is
Yeah.
quite an ornate, ankle bracelet. And she's wearing like a bangle on her wrist, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, well, a bangle is one thing, but a bracelet is another that normally has like some charms on it or some
But at no
some
point do you like
jewels.
see her do it. And Leslie Nielsen's face when she does that, like, looks like, oh, that's a bit weird. But I don't understand what this joke is, and I don't. It doesn't feel right. It being, and I know there's loads of ludicrous jokes in The Naked Gun.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked Neil, and Neil was like, I have no idea. I just assumed it was some sort of sex toy. But he's like, but ask on your podcast. So I'm looking to crowdsource this. What do people think that joke is? Like, look, we'll post a link to the clip.
I'm finding this like slightly weird because to me it's just so obvious that it was a bracelet that's on the wrist and it's slipped down. And it's a silly joke because obviously it can't physically slip down there. But the joke is that it was meant to be on her wrist and now it's on her ankle. And now she's trying to push it back up to her wrist.
See, and
That just makes total sense to me.
this is the fever that you get online.
Yeah.
Like, and this is the anger that you get online, where there's people going, I cannot believe you do not understand this joke. It's
very simple.
It's a bracelet, and then someone else going, how fucking stupid are you? It's a garter, and then like,
This is bizarre. So how and this only came about because you listened to it being spoken and obviously played out
on a podcast.
on
And
a
obviously
podcast.
they did, like, Film Spotting do a lot of like highbrow art house films, so it's unlike them to do something so broad. And I think when I'm watching Naked Gun, like, literally it's a gag every second. So you, like, if you don't get a joke, there's going to be 1-2 seconds later that you get to. This is about 3 seconds after, or 50 seconds after the Nice Beaver famous joke.
Yeah.
There's a joke about a gun going off straight before
Yeah.
it. And I was like, I've never understood that joke, and I don't understand what it is.
How bizarre. I find it really weird that, like, to me, it's just so simple and nothing really to think about.
And it just doesn't
you're
click
saying
that
it's a
it's
corner
what
of the internet.
It just doesn't click that the gag that you say is. That's totally a gag that they would have in the Naked Gun, obviously. But yeah,
Is this what you've spent your time doing this week?
a lot of it, yeah.
Is this, when I've been trying to talk to you about stuff and you've just been like frantically Googling? Is this where you've been?
Oh,
Have you
yeah.
been on the forums and the threads
on Reddit,
and
yeah.
trying to, yeah?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Do you want to talk about some modern TV and films?
Why not? Let's give it a go.
And we can dissect the gags badly for those as
Yeah,
well.
we will. I'm not sure there are that many gags in them, but we'll give it a try.
Watching television.
TV that we have not been watching together.
No, because we don't like each other anymore.
That's right.
Because you don't understand comedy, and yes.
And you don't like true crime documentaries.
That's true.
So that's it.
true.
The end
Yeah.
of the podcast.
Yeah.
I am going to talk about some documentaries. But,
Of course you are.
But this time, Mark, are you prepared? They are sex cult documentaries. So they might be a little bit more enticing for you than the old true crime.
Yeah, okay.
You're being
I'm
careful of what you're saying.
Yes, yeah. If we weren't recorded on this, I'd be making a lot more jokes at this point. But
And you're going to talk about The Bear.
yes, the bear.
Yes,
The bear.
And then we are going to have a discussion, as you put it, pre-podcast, about Andor.
Yes, that's
You said
right.
we weren't going to review it. We were just going to have a discussion about it. And you said we'd do that at the end, which has intrigued me.
I don't think we need to talk everyone through
Yeah,
this.
I know. Oh, I have to talk through it. I'm talking through it to remind me of what we're going to do. I'm finding it interesting that you want to have a discussion rather than just listen to what I think about Andor.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll get to that, won't we?
Yes, we will. Sex cults?
Sex cults.
Yes. So, a couple of years ago, back in November 2020, we did a podcast episode that involved a review of a documentary called The Vow. Do you remember this?
Did I watch it?
No, you didn't. I watched it.
Is this the one where there was an original version like many, many years ago? And nope, you're shaking your head.
No, but you are. I think you're thinking of something like The Staircase, which was originally a documentary, then it was made into like a fictional piece.
Oh, that could be it.
So yeah, but you're along the right line. So
Yeah.
this is it's on Sky Documentaries, but it's created by people who were in the cult that was called Nixium. Do you remember Nixium or Nexium? I never quite know how. It's all got letters and numbers and numerics.
Ooh,
so.
I'm interested by this. Like
Yeah.
Num 3 euros.
Yeah, a bit like
Did
that.
I do that joke last time we reviewed this?
Probably. Haven't listened back. So this is the second series, but the original series back in 2020 told us about this organisation that came about in the late 2000s, which branded itself as being a personal growth company. So if you wanted to develop yourself as an executive or as a business person, if you were middle class and had a lot of money, you could chuck it at this group that was run by Keith Raniere and Nancy Saltzman.
Can I ask a question?
You can.
I'm aware that I could just go through every single true crime documentary that you've talked about this.
Yeah.
Was there an actress from
Yes,
something involved
there
in this?
was.
Who was it?
So it's Alison Mack from Smallville.
Smallville.
And that's
it.
what attracts most attention is that there's this actress from Smallville that people who watch Smallville like us remembered. And
Never seen an episode.
Kristen Queck. Oh, did you not see it?
No.
Oh, right.
no.
I thought it'd be the sort of thing that you would have watched back in your youth.
I think there's a lot of. By the time I would have got into that, there was just like 200 episodes. So I'm just like, that's too much work.
But there were well-known actors and actresses that were involved. I think Richard Branson denied he went on one of the programmes, like, quite vigorously, and you would.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the programmes of Smallville. I was like, how
that
can he
would've been
deny
good.
it? Yeah, no, what in that?
That wasn't me.
That
It was
wasn't
a
me.
double. So, yeah, you'll see that if you ever look up on Wikipedia, you'll see the list of people who went or have now said that, no, I wasn't involved at all.
Yeah.
They're on the front cover of major magazines. They were very well known. They had thousands of members, and they set themselves up in Albany and this headquarters, and all around this guy Keith, who was set himself up as a guru. You had to call him Vanguard. You had to call his second in command Nancy Prefect, and they had all these sashes that you would have with different colours. And quite clearly, from the outside, you can see that they're using organised religion, cult behaviour, to create this growing community and building it, people living next door to each other, people marrying each other. It very much smacks of the other organisations that we can think of, like Scientology.
I was wondering if we were going to name them.
No, yeah, I am.
Yes.
But really build themselves around that brand of you're in the group or you're not.
Yes.
So The Vow, the original series, took you through this amazing documentary evidence from the time, and I spent a long time thinking, how do they have this video? Because they're taking you through the past. You obviously know something's awry, but they're taking you through the past. They're taking you through all these things that Keith's saying. He's at Nancy. You're intimately seeing them in their houses, and they're going for walks in the middle of the night, and it's all recorded. And you're thinking, how did they get that? Well, of course, the documentary itself was made by ex-NXIVM members, people who had discovered that something was going wrong within this organisation, and one of those people was a filmmaker. So he had all of the tapes. He was the person.
It's inconvenient for them, isn't
it? Yeah. And also, Ranieri allegedly said that he wanted everything filmed so that people could see what they were doing, and which I think is quite a clever thing, isn't it? Of like, oh, well, I've got nothing to hide. Many things were going wrong within I'm going to put it in inverted commas, the organisation. And you come to learn about it almost as the characters within the documentary are learning about it as well, because you're essentially seeing it all in real time in this documentary footage. And then at the end, Ranieri's arrested, Alison Mack's arrested, all the people involved in NXIVM are arrested on a huge number of very serious charges, from trafficking offences, sexual slavery, kidnapping, imprisonment, these huge, and some of them I really didn't understand at the time how those were coming about. Anyway, we're back for the next part of the story, and this is essentially taking us through what happened next. The whole of the court case. It's incredibly well done, and I'm conflicted by it because, again, it's made by the people who are ex-members. Sometimes I feel like they're using the techniques of the organisation on me as an audience member, and I find myself getting really pulled into what they're saying, and then realising that at the end of every episode there's a major cliffhanger, and thinking, am I just being taken over by the techniques that they used within this cult? And am I just going along with it? There are also some ethical questions, because they do interview people who were found to be guilty of the offences and give them a platform to talk about the work that they did. There's a particular episode, and this isn't giving anything away because they've talked about it before, a particular episode where they try to, in inverted commas, and to an extent do, cure people who have particular syndromes using the techniques, and they're cognitive behavioural techniques, and it's nothing new, but you can see it working on the screen, and you think, oh, they were really doing some good because people felt better about themselves. But then obviously there's this huge majorly dark side to it. The reason I'm going back to it is because I find it fascinating. I find any sort of organised community groups that have like this head person at the front of them that everyone just seems to have so much trust in and no one queries, who then takes people on a journey where you go, oh, you wouldn't agree to that, oh, you totally question that, or you'd say, what on earth are you doing? And they don't, and you just say, how does that happen? At the same time, I am also
before we move on,
what?
Can I just ask you a question? I imagine learning about a sex cult is far more interesting than watching the trial of someone accused of heading up a sex cult.
Not necessarily. Obviously,
Having not seen either thing, I'm getting massive season 2 of making a murderer.
No, because, I mean, I'm using the term sex cult in a really light-hearted way, probably because I'm going to come on and talk about another organisation that had the same thing, sort of the same title given to it, which is a little bit, well, actually, no, I mean, that's very dark as well. But anyway, that's the title that was given to both of these organisations. I'll talk about the other documentary in a minute. The interesting thing about this second series is that it shines a light on aspects of the organisation that I never dreamed were possible. And so it's not just that, oh, he's a very bad man and he's done terrible things and we know what those bad things are. It's opening a Pandora's box into things that were happening in season 1, you know, in the timeline of season 1, that the people who were making the documentary at season 1 did not know were happening. And so we are finding out as they are finding out, and the stakes get more and more and more. Even though I know what the outcome of the trial is, I'm finding it fascinating.
Okay, because I have massive Joe Exotic strikes back thing.
Yeah, it's not that. It's a continuation of the story in an interesting way, and also showing you more it's giving you more information. It's not just a, oh, what happened next. It's a, oh, okay, you think you know the story, but you
only know how it ends.
So you know, here I have some more information. And like I say, we're making light of it. We're calling it sex cult because that's what the press called it. But there's some like evil things have happened to men, but particularly to women who were forced into, like I say, sexual slavery.
So listeners, next time Elaine says, I don't know why you're watching this, just bear this in mind. Let's just refer back to this.
And then the second documentary, I must mention it because I mentioned it before, but equally fascinating to me for the same reasons of, I find it really interesting why people get behind certain people, and I like to look at the psychology of it. But this one, this documentary, it's on Netflix. It's called Orgasm. Yes, that's a new word for orgasm. Orgasm Inc. The Story of One Taste. Have you heard of One Taste?
No, but I'm gonna.
Well, and you're right to put that face on, because One Taste was a company that was set up ostensibly to teach people about female pleasure, and it was essentially a sex school, and they would have someone in the middle of the class, and there would be someone performing techniques with their hands to that person and showing the class, which was mainly men, how they could increase the pleasure of the female partner. So on the surface, again, it's all about female empowerment. It's all about, you know, we are women, we deserve pleasure. There's a really strong positive focus to it. And there is a guru, you know, there is this woman who's coming out, and she's doing these YouTubers, she's doing TED Talks, she's making a large amount of money from not only these classes, but from just being a personality. And of course, again, and this is where we have to put our serious face on, there is a really dark underbelly where women were coerced to do things that they didn't want to, where young women in particular, who were really thinking about and learning about their sexuality, felt that they were in a position where they couldn't say no to things, and it really does take a dark turn. Again, the reason I started to watch it, because A, was the title pulled me, and I just thought, oh, what's this?
Would do, wouldn't it? Yeah.
What's this? This looks interesting. But also that idea again, that theme of, you know, why do people follow someone who you can clearly see there's this element of charlatan about, you can clearly see that there's something not quite right, and yet why do we as intelligent people push all of that aside? Because, you know, do we want to follow someone? Do we want to believe in something? Do we want to be part of a community? What is it that leads well-heeled, privileged particularly with these groups, intelligent people to do this, to throw everything behind like a philosophy and an organisation. That was a lot longer than I anticipated on doing.
I mean,
on these.
I could speculate, but
Yeah.
having not seen it, I mean, yeah, this isn't going to be something that I watch.
No, it isn't. But if you are into that, dear listeners, if you're really into that idea of the psychology of why would people do this? Why would they travel to Albany to be with this guru called Keith, to walk around in the middle of the night, to have him tell you things that, you know, will, in inverted commas, change your life? Why would you become part of an organisation that is taking you down a very dark path in terms of your sexual health? And, you know, that's the question that I ask myself when I'm watching these.
I think if I wasn't recording, I would be speculating on this, which is unwise and in such an environment. But yeah.
So if you're into that, anyone who's listening, if that's the sort of thing that floats your boat like it does me, both of these organisations, The Vow, which is on Sky Documentaries, and Orgasm Inc. I think it's The Story of One Taste, but it could be something else.
That's going to get the listeners when you put it in the title, isn't
I
it?
know, it's like, it is The Story of One Taste. Yeah, I've just looked it up. The Story of One Taste. That both of those documentaries are a fascinating watch.
Okay. The Bear.
The Bear.
Probably one of my top shows I've seen this year.
You're not the first person to say that. I
No.
don't think.
The Bear. What do you know about The Bear?
Is it something to do with chefing? Because
That's a word. Yeah, chefing. Yeah.
chefing is a word.
That's not a word.
It is a word. They use it on MasterChef. Chefing.
These are a lot of things on MasterChef that I don't think are accepted outside.
So I've seen a photograph of someone who looks really stressed out, and I think he's in chef's whites,
Yes.
or with a knife or something. You know, chopping something. That's what I.
So this is the story of Jeremy Allen White, who plays Carmy, and is an equivalent of a Michelin star chef. He is the hot young thing. He is working in the best kitchen in the world. He has his own cookbooks. He is featured in culinary magazines. He is well known to chefs around the world. And he inherits his brother's sandwich business in Chicago. And quits his Michelin star job to take over the family business of a Chicago Subs Subway.
Is that the equivalent?
Yeah. It's called Beef,
Okay.
and it does beef subs
God,
essentially.
It's your favourite place ever to go to. Then.
Absolutely. This is not about a Michelin star chef who goes on to take it sort of. This is about a TV show about grief. It's a TV show about respect within a workplace. It's a TV show just about people. This is I think if this was a badly done show, the first episode would be him probably doing an interview, then going in and sprinkling some saffron on top of some caviar, and then he'll get a phone call and he'll go home and they'll be with the lawyers looking after the estate, and he'd find it out, and then that would be the end of the first episode. We don't get that. We start off with him working in the kitchen of Beef. He is surrounded by these people who do not understand why a Michelin star chef is coming into this environment. He is trying to organise it in an efficient way. He's trying to bring the standards of a top-class restaurant into this little fast food restaurant, essentially. And he is still having to deal with the grief of losing his brother. His brother's best friend is working there, who seems like the worst person in the world. I mean, I am cursed to say that because Ebon Moss-Bachrach, who... Did you ever watch Girls?
No,
Okay.
I never did, yeah.
There is a character in that called Desi, who dated the girl from Girls who is in Get Out.
Right, I understand.
And is genuinely one of the best written, worst people you've ever seen. I just consider him Desi in everything. And he plays a dickhead so well. But a dickhead that you can warm to at points. Like, yeah. I can't tell you probably any character's name without looking them up. But the writing is so good that I know every single character in this, and I could point them out and I could say, oh, she is just like that person. They are just like that person because they're so well written. It's a half an hour comedy drama. People say it's stressful. And obviously it's work in a kitchen. I don't consider this any more stressful than the bit in MasterChef where you go and work in a kitchen.
Oh, well, that's good to know because I think I've avoided it because of that vibe that people have given like around it, you know, when they've said, oh, it's like you've got to sit, oh, it's going to like blow your mind and oh, you've got to, and that, I do not need that on a night time.
It's just, I think,
because a lot of TV shows and films about being a chef are like that, aren't there? There's been that Stephen Graham film recently where it's all one take, isn't it? And it's like,
I won't call it boiling point.
Yeah, I think it might be. And that's meant to be like a heart attack just watching it.
I find those stressful. I find MasterChef when they go in the kitchen more stressful than you, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't necessarily find this any more or less stressful than that.
That's good to know.
But this is just so well written. Like, nothing's laid on a plate for you. Like, everything's in the... Oh, God, I didn't even mean to do that. Nice. Everything's in the subtext of the conversations that people have. Ayo Edebiri plays Sydney, who's a trainee chef who's coming to work at Beef because she idolises Kami and she wants a job in a kitchen and, like... But she wouldn't be getting a job in a sandwich kitchen, essentially. This is so good, and I really think that enough people are missing out on this because there's a lot out at the minute. But yeah, just check it out. Your favourite turns up for a couple of episodes.
Really? Who?
Oliver Platt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he plays Uncle Jimmy, who's a mafioso figure.
My Uncle Jimmy anytime.
You've got some weird crushes.
I got some weird crushes. I know. He is old now, isn't he?
But yeah, it's on Disney Plus. It's 8 episodes. It's half an hour long.
Oh, okay, half an hour. That's good.
You can get through this in 4 hours. Like it's shorter than some of the Lord of the Rings films in extended editions. Yeah. So.
And it's got the electricity, which for long-time listeners, they will know that you really enjoy things with electricity in. Unlike the Lord of the Rings films.
No, I'm just put off by scenarios that are set in a time where electricity doesn't exist.
I know.
Yes, I'm just explaining for new listeners.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
you want to have a discussion about Andor?
Yes.
With the highlight being the word discussion. So how do you want to play it then?
So, I have a question for you.
You do? I don't know what I've just said you do. I'm like, yes, you do. You do have a question.
I've heard so many people say Andor is so good, it's the thing that's got me back into Star Wars.
Yes.
I was so bored of all the Star Wars TV shows, but I am so back on this. It's one of the best shows of the year. I am yet to hear anyone eloquently state a reason why. However, I saw you watch about 4 episodes a day for 2 days to get caught up. Can you tell me why?
So I think I come from it from a very different point of view. Is that I kind of missed out on the Star Wars thing. I think I've had one Star Wars t-shirt, which if I've got a t-shirt, you tend to find that I like it, but it was more of a like rather than a love. I've never really gone into sort of like collecting any of the characters or going through the lore or, you know, things that I really would do if I was really, really into it.
Yeah.
And of course there's huge amounts around Star Wars as well, so it's something that you could really, really get into the fandom. I enjoy the films. If they're on the telly, watch them. I have the box set in various guises. You know, when the prequels came out, I had a big poster of little Anakin Skywalker with the shadow of Darth, which I really loved at the time. You know, so that sort of thing. So I've just liked it. When we've got into things like The Mandalorian, I have enjoyed The Mandalorian, but not necessarily because it's Star Wars. I've just enjoyed it because of the show that it is.
Yeah.
I was not taken with the Book of Boba Fett in any way, shape or form, and I certainly didn't. I can't even remember, to be honest with you, the one about what's his name? He's got a beard and he's a Jedi.
Obi-Wan.
See, that shows you the level of my fandom. Yeah,
he's got a beard and he's a Jedi.
Kenobi. There we go. He's in a cave. So yeah, when they announced that they were doing a spin-off of a character from a film I can barely remember, Rogue One, that I think I enjoyed. Like I so can't remember it. I can't remember if I liked it or not. I think I did.
I really enjoyed it. I have not thought much about it since.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The major thing I've thought about it is that friend of the podcast, Chris, hi Chris, went to find a filming location in London. They used one of the tube stations.
Canary Wharf tube station was in the trailer, but not in the actual...
Well, he went
itself.
there and he filmed him. He photographed himself at the angle and then did a screenshot. And I really remember that. And if that's the biggest thing I remember about the film, that's a bit of a worry, isn't it? I remember at the time thinking, oh, this Cassian Andor, what on earth are they doing? Going back this character that for me was really just a cipher. He didn't really have anything that I could hook myself around, whereas some of the other characters from Rogue One I could recall. So I didn't want to watch it at all. I wasn't going to watch it. And then I heard people like you saying that it was the best thing, not only in terms of the latest guises of Star Wars, but just generally saying it'll be in their top 1 or 2 programs of the year. And so that's why I went into it. I watched the first 3 episodes and thought, what? What is everyone going on about? Maybe I'm just missing this, because they were fine, they were interesting, but I didn't really get it. And then episode 4 really changed everything for me. The only way, to answer your question, the only thing, I think, there's a couple of things. First of all, I care about the people. I care about their predicaments. And I care about them in a really human way that I can relate their predicaments to what's going on in the world right now.
Okay.
So the things that are happening within Andor, I can make clear links between world events and the events that are happening there, even though they're happening on planets that don't exist, and galaxy far
There's a big
far,
rich
far
man
away.
bought their social network.
So, I'm going to be very careful with what I say, but this is not a show about the Skywalker family. This is not a show about Jedis. This is a show about real people living under the auspices of the Empire, and how that affects so many different people on so many different levels. There are... Even if you take away the Star Warsy elements of it, there's a set of 3 episodes in particular that are so brilliantly done. You could take it and put it into present day. You could just take the whole of those events and put it into present day, and you would believe it was happening now. And the only thing about the program is that it's happening on some sort of planet that we don't know. Maybe we don't understand that it's got some aliens on it. But you could take that scenario and you can absolutely put the tracing paper onto today's events. The acting is superb. Like, utterly superb.
I mean, it's got great people in, as far as I can tell.
It has. And the writing. It's like they've sat down, thought about the gone around, done a few edits, and then they've gone around again for maybe another 10, 20 times and honed it absolutely perfect. You were talking about in The Bear, all of the characters, know that. I would say the same about Andor. It takes a while, but once it hits its stride, you care about every single person. You know where they all are. You don't have to think, oh, what's this person doing? What's that person doing? Things happen that are realistic, that aren't cliched.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. And like you say, I have consumed it and actually to a point where I've had to stop myself and really think about slowing it down, because I've only got 1 more episode to go and I'll be quite sad. It's really, I find it fascinating, because this should not be a show for me. And maybe I would have watched these first 3 episodes and gone, okay, fine. But it was only because people were saying this is my show of the year. I don't know whether you've heard, maybe you haven't because you won't have been listening to all the spoiler episodes, but the phrase that comes up all the time is Star Wars for adults. And I can understand why that's the moniker that's being used.
You're putting me off now.
Because it is. It's not it's not for children.
Yeah.
It has incredibly dark themes and incredibly dark things happen within it. Does that help in any way?
Should have just said it's got Christopher Fairbanks in it, and
oh yes,
I just saw you watching it, and Moxie was there.
Moxie turns up. I mean, everyone turns up in it. I mean, honestly, hun, in episode 1, there are people from EastEnders. There are people from Coronation Street. There's a huge British and Irish cast
in their characters from EastEnders and Coronation
Street.
Sometimes
they've really
lofty and curly together at last.
They've really gone for it in terms of your character actors, but also people who are very well known on stage and theatrical actors.
Okay.
So every episode you kind of go, oh, that's so and so. Oh, that's it. You can play that game quite a lot in this. To people in the background or people in the foreground. And I listened to another spoiler podcast. I've listened to so many of them, I can't even remember who it is. And the person on it who was hosting said, oh yeah, I did a show with them 5 years ago in Edinburgh Fringe. And they said, oh, I'm watching it. I'm saying, oh, there he is. He's like, number 2 guard on the left hand side. And the interviews that they were doing, they said that to the people behind it, and it's, oh yeah, I just have free reign. I just wanted to cast who I wanted to cast.
I think we're getting to the stage where I need to start catching up on things for sort of end of year lists and stuff like that. I'll give it a go.
Just do the first 3. I think not really thinking about, just kind of going, it's setting it up. And I think once you get to
How
episode,
long are they?
They're about half an hour to 40 minutes.
Okay, right.
They're not as long
doable.
as you think, because when you get, and you found this with me when I was in bed watching it the other night, I said, oh, I've got about 8 minutes left on the video thingy.
So I started doing something, and then you were like, right, finished.
And that's because it's just got huge amounts of credits at the end. So it's not as long as it looks when you bring it up on screen. Funnily enough, I bumped into our friend Jim. Hello, Jim, if you're listening. And he said that it took him a little bit longer, sort of more into episode 5 to get into it. So, mileage may vary on this, I think. But he also said he found it very good.
We've got a lot of films to talk about.
Yeah, we have.
Should we move on to them?
Films we've seen together.
Films we've seen together, films we've seen separately.
Saturday night at the movies. Who cares what picture you see? When you're hugging with your baby, last row in the balcony.
Movies. What are we doing first?
Do you want to do The Wonder? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is called The Wonder. Yeah, so The Wonder is a film that's come out this year. Be careful if you're looking it up, because there have been many things called The Wonder. And so when I'm looking it up on like IMDb or looking up on Wikipedia, I have to specifically say Florence Pugh. So that tells you a little bit about the film. It's a film that's set in the 1860s in Ireland, in a small village in Ireland. Florence Pugh is an English nurse. She comes over to Ireland because the elders of the village are in need of some assistance. There's an 11-year-old girl in the village who, it is said, has not eaten for 4 months. And Florence Pugh, with the aid of a nun, because of course you've got to have a nun as well, is charged to watch the girl.
Yeah.
And see what happens over a period of 2 weeks. And that's where I'm going to leave it, because the less you know about this film, the better. I went in just knowing that. I knew Florence Pugh was in it. I didn't know that she was an English nurse. I just knew that she'd been called to this village. And in the trailer it says, this girl, who's this 11-year-old girl, hasn't eaten. And in the trailer she says, how long has the girl not eaten? And they say 4 months. And she says, that's impossible. So of course there is this question as to how it is happening. Is it a miracle? Many people in the village are coming to see her specifically because they feel it's a religious miracle. And of course there are other people who are more scientifically minded who are saying, well, something must be happening.
So if you didn't know much about this film, what was it that attracted you to this Tom Burke film, The Wonder?
Yeah, so I've talked about Florence Pugh a lot because obviously she is the main person in it. But yes, Tom Burke does pop up, and I was very excited to see him in this role. Even though they don't, I mean, it's 1860s, isn't it? I think it's 1862. They do dress him in a way that makes him look less attractive, I have to say. It is probably the least attractive Tom Burke that I have seen, but still attractive, Mark. But still attractive. Very lovely man, Tom Burke. I think it was the sideburns were a little bit too big in the 1800s clothes that put me off a bit.
You can pair over Tom Burke if I can pair over Florence Pugh, if that's okay.
I mean, Florence Pugh is absolutely stunning in this film.
Funny that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's become one of those things, isn't it, where to heap praise on Florence Pugh is something that's incredibly natural to do. But I have to say that she has had an absolute stellar year with Don't Worry Darling, with this film. But I am concerned that Don't Worry Darling, for all the wrong reasons, has been getting the most attention, and that this has really gone under the radar. I went to see it in the cinema, which it was it's a beautiful cinematography. You can imagine Ireland in the the 19th century, beautiful vistas.
It's been a while since I've seen a film set in craggy rocks of Ireland.
I was about to say.
In the olden days.
We've got I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be setting up the synopsis for that, so I'm probably just going to be saying the same thing. But yeah, absolutely beautiful film. It is on at the cinema, but it's also coming on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix in a few days' time, actually.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people will wait to see it in Netflix, which is fair enough. But if you can, go and see this film. Go and see it, absolutely, for Florence Pugh. She is stunning. I mean, the camera just loves her, and she takes us through the whole of this story. But this film has been getting really how can I say it? Like, really middling. That's the word I'm looking for. Middling reviews. It's been getting sort of 3 out of 5 stars, for example, in nearly everything that I've seen. Or when people are talking about it, they've just talked about the Florence Pugh effect. I think that's really doing it an injustice. Cinematography, story-wise, acting, the other people involved in the film, and it's a small team of actors, because it really strikes me as being something that could be on the stage.
Yeah.
I think it completely does it an injustice to say, oh, we'll just go for Florence Pugh, because that takes away all the other elements of the film that really kept me going. I was totally compelled. I did not know one way or another how this girl was staying alive when she wasn't eating, when people are in the room with her day in, day out, and she's not eating, and yet she still lives. And some really dark moments within the film, some things that I didn't expect, some twists, some turns, but a really interesting film and a lot to think about, and I have thought about it since I left it. The only thing I would say is that the relationship between Tom Burke and Florence Pugh, their characters, whilst there's plenty there to hang your hat on, I think they could have done with a few more scenes together. I was left wanting a little more and it being fleshed out a little bit more. But that was the only thing. I was absolutely giving it 4.5, maybe 4 on, in reflection, after I'd calmed down a bit. Maybe it was the Tom Burke effect. But I feel the 3 stars, and maybe these middling, this sort of meh, go for Florence Pugh, but don't worry about the rest of the film. It really doesn't sit right with me. I think go and see it, enjoy the whole film, enjoy the fact that Florence Pugh is there, enjoy the other people who are involved in the film, and enjoy that central premise of someone who might be having a miracle occur.
I wasn't tempted with this at all, but having heard you describe it, I'll probably will check this out when it's on Netflix. Yeah,
I think on Netflix. It's not a long film.
You've said that before.
I say that before, but it wasn't sort of like 2.5 hours. I think it was 2 hours, something like that. And yeah, I really, really loved it. But like I say, it's a dark film. It's not a jolly film. Don't go, don't stick your Netflix on if you're looking for a Friday night laugh a minute, because it isn't. It's very much something to contemplate and to think about, and there are some very dark themes involved.
Okay. Do you know what film you shouldn't go see at the cinema?
Is it Black Adam?
It is. So
I wasn't compelled to watch this at all. Talking about things that, we've been to see individually that we haven't really wanted to go to.
Yeah, but it's The Rock.
Yes.
It's The Rock in the DC universe playing it's kind of a follow-up to Shazam.
Right.
Which you've seen?
I have seen, yeah. And actually, Shazam 2's coming out soon. I saw a trailer for that the other day.
Yes. This is The Rock getting his ideal role, which is one of the, I don't know how you explain it, one of the Shazams from Ye Olde world.
Is there a phrase are they called something in particular?
I don't know.
Okay, right.
I'm
immortal
doing more about this than I even wanted to.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, he gets the powers of the Shazam. He gets trapped encased in stone, and is dug up in modern day.
Okay.
This is really fucking bad. I went in expecting some fun from The Rock, which you do get, but it's The Rock performance that you get. We were watching San Andreas earlier today.
Yeah, we were really enjoying it, actually.
It's largely the same performance. It's the same performance as Jungle Cruise. It's the same performance as Rampage. It's the same actual director as Jungle Cruise. And yeah. There are some good guys in this, because he's kind of an anti-hero, Black Adam, as far as I can tell. There is the Justice Force, or you know what?
God,
I don't even know. Yeah.
Are they all meant to be linked to Batman and other people in that?
So these are
territory?
like secondary superheroes. So there's Hawkman, played by Aldous Hodge.
Sorry, is that Hawkeye?
Well,
are these all like takeoffs of the Marvel?
Look, I don't know in DC world who came first.
Yeah.
But there is Hawkman, who is very much has wings and can fly, not unlike the Falcon.
Oh, right, wow.
There is Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, who is a mystic wizard who can see into the future. You know that bit in Avengers Infinity War where Doctor Strange looks into the future? Yeah. That. There is Noah Centineo, I think it's pronounced, as Atom Smasher. So imagine Ant-Man dressed as Deadpool.
Okay.
And that's just it. Like, there is no other way around that. And then there is Quintessa Swindell as Cyclone, which is a superhero who has the powers of the wind. And all the way through, it's just... I mean, they must know. They must know. I mean, he looks just like Deadpool. Like, it's not even a joke. And he is big like Ant-Man. Like, when Ant-Man goes big.
Do they play on it at all? Do they...
Oh, no. They're just
very earnest.
Justice Force or whatever.
Okay.
I don't even know what it is. And this film is not even worth looking up how long it is. Don't go see it. Don't encourage them. They're going to make more.
Oh, no.
James Gunn is now taking over the DC universe. By all accounts, he's going to have his hands full with The Rock, who really wants to do films exactly how he wants them. But yeah, don't go see that. It's spectacularly shit. Should we talk about a good film?
Yeah, let's talk about good films.
Well, I mean,
we
don't know what each other think of these films, but
yeah, but they've got to be better than that, surely.
Yeah.
Which one do we do first? We've got Black Panther and we've got... What's the other one? I can't remember. Banshees of Inisherin.
Let's do the Banshees of Inisherin.
Okay, so The Banshees of Inisherin is a Martin McDonagh film. He of 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri and In Bruges.
And 7 Psychopaths.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen In Bruges, to be honest with you. I've only seen the
Really?
Billboards. Yeah, I don't know him very well. Anyway, we're back in Ireland.
Yes.
We're in the 1920s this time. This is lovely for me and my historical films, which I love.
Yeah.
So we're in the 1920s, and Podrick, who is played by Colin Farrell, goes to knock on his friend Colm's door. Colm is played by Brendan Gleeson. Knocks on the door because they're going to go to the pub, because seemingly that's what they do every day at the same time.
Yes.
In this little remote village on this island. I think it's a fictional island, or
it is
off the coast of Ireland, but it's based on the islands off the coast of Ireland that are actually in existence.
Stop saying island.
I will stop saying island. Anyway, he goes to knock on his door, and Colm no longer speaks to him and no longer wants to be his friend. And we follow Podrick and his sister and some of the other characters on the island as they all try to work out and really come to terms with
it together.
Why this has happened. And that's the central idea, isn't it? It's like, what happens one day when your best mate, who you've spent all your time with, one day you're talking to them about your donkey, which Podrick does. He's talking to them about your donkey, and the next day they just go, don't want to be your friend anymore. And that's it, isn't it?
That
takes you through the film. So interestingly, we went to see this separately. So you had already seen it before I had, and I wasn't really thinking of going to it. I hadn't listened to any podcasts about it, because sometimes when I know I'm not going to go and see a film, I just listen to the podcast spoilers and all, just to see what other people think of it. And I hadn't. I'd sort of held off for a little bit, because I did think, maybe I should go and see it. It was getting so many good reviews. And so I am pleased I have been to see it. You didn't do anything when you came home. Normally I get a bit of a sense. No, but you know what I mean? Like,
Interesting.
Normally I get a bit of a sense of whether you think something's terrible. Like, I knew Black Adam, you just came home sighing. Or if you get quite... You can see it in your face that it was a good experience or a good film. I couldn't even remember at one point whether you'd been to see it, and I had to remind myself that you had. I'm not getting any sort of vibe of what you think about this film, so I'm really interested to know what you made of it, particularly because the focus is on these two men.
Yeah. So
and their friendship.
I love this film. I really, really liked it when I left the cinema, and ever since I spent more time thinking about it, I have loved it more and more. I think I was a little bit frustrated in the cinema that it wasn't necessarily the... I've got to be very careful, because I think this is a film which benefits from knowing as little as what goes on as possible. There's no big twists or anything like that, and I kind of was expecting something like that. This is just the story of what happens when two people who are close, one decides he doesn't want to be friends. And the more I have thought about this, the more I have fallen in love with these characters. And
And the donkey.
One of the greatest animal performances ever. Like, I know that there is like awards for dogs in films. The palm dogs.
There should be an award for all animals, because that donkey was... And we're laughing, but there are animals constantly in the film. There's cows and
it's people
horses
in the early 20th century who are relying upon their...
Absolutely, they're getting their milk from the cow, and they're delivering it to them. So there are various characters outside of your Colm and your Podrick and all the other people in the village, and a lot of them are the animal characters, but you really become invested in the relationship that Podrick has with his animals in particular.
Absolutely. I think when I was in the cinema, I just thought of this as being, he's decided not to be a friend, blah, blah, blah. The more I've thought about this afterwards, like how I would cope with this, and there's a point in the film where someone turns around and goes, is he 12? He's just turned around and said he didn't want to be a friend. Is he 12? But why is that wrong? Like, someone turns around to you and says, I don't want to be your friend anymore.
Yeah.
It would be totally different from if, for example, relationships break down all the time. Like sexual relationships break down all the time. In this way, where someone just turns around and says, I don't want to be married to you anymore.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen with friends, does it?
No, it's very rare.
And I think the more I thought about that, and the more I sort of explored these two, there is, in the background, there is... over on the mainland of Ireland, there is a civil war going on. It's that sort of time, and I think that kind of casts a shadow over the entire proceedings of this civil war between these two people. The more I think about this, the more I love it, and if it's touching my top 10 for the year, and possibly even higher than that. What did you think of it?
I think my summary of it is I respect it. I didn't love it.
Okay.
And maybe it is that idea of the two men, and there's a lot about, and this is not giving anything away, they are clearly touching on things of what you want to do with your life and the time that you have left, and also there are question marks around mental health.
Yeah.
So all of those things I think are really interesting, given that like I say, it's two men of a certain age as well. So I can see why it would resonate with you, perhaps with other men, and particularly men of an age, I think. For me, I found it to be too languid, too slow. I found myself bored and feeling guilty that I was bored. I know, and I'm not saying that it's a terrible film, because it isn't. I just found myself thinking, I enjoyed the wonder more than this, that it propelled me forward more than this. And whilst I enjoyed being in the company of the characters, I really liked Kerry, is it Condon, as the sister, the role of the sister, Siobhan. I thought she played that role absolutely beautifully. I really like elements of Barry Keoghan as a young lad, Dominic, that comes in and speaks the truth quite a lot of the time as well. I really liked the writing, but I felt that it was just too long, and I did find myself getting bored and I found myself checking my watch and thinking, when's this going to end? I think it starts to pick up towards the end, and I kind of wish that had happened a little bit earlier, and that there had been more of propulsion earlier, and things had escalated more and perhaps gone a little further. I feel that it's just getting going towards the end. I also, and I think this is very much a personal point, there is, and it's called the Banshees of Inisherin. There are references to Macbeth and the witches in Macbeth. There is a lot of portent and the idea that someone might be able to, see the future, and there's almost like some horror elements as well of
Absolutely.
people in black just standing. And maybe personally for me, I wanted more of that. I think it's the sort of thing that lends itself to me. I would have liked to have understood a little bit more about those supernatural or mystical spiritual elements that were being brought into it. But yeah, I completely respect it as a film. I can see why everyone loves it. I can see why it's getting all of the accolades. It's not something I would watch again. And whilst I think there are some beautiful moments in it and some stunning acting, I think Colin Farrell in particular, I mean, it's always difficult to pick one person out, but I think he absolutely deserves a number of awards. Whilst I can say all of that, to put together as a film, I found myself watching it thinking, I'm sure Mark absolutely loves this. I am respectfully going, this is good. These elements are good. But as a film as a whole, I can't say I love it. One point I was like sort of 2 stars, 3 stars, which I know is a travesty. And I know that because if you put it down in writing and you tick off all the things that are good about it, that clearly isn't the case. But that's what I'm having to do. I'm having to go, that acting was really good. Oh, that cinematography was really good. Oh, I really like that bit with the donkey. But as a whole, I came away feeling very cold.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I know. I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about it at all. Because
Why don't you just enjoy it more?
I listened to the Cinemiles review of it, and obviously they are from Ireland and had a lot to say about the history, which I really enjoyed, and they talked about it in such glowing terms. And when I heard them talking about it, I felt a bit sad because I was like, I wanted a bit of that, and I just didn't have it. But I'm glad you did.
Which character did you warm towards most?
Oh, Siobhan, probably.
No, out of the two.
Out of the
leads.
two. Now it's really interesting because I can see both sides of the. I don't think there was it wasn't a binary for me. It wasn't, I'm on so and so's side, or I'm on this other person is right or wrong. I can totally see
because
both perspectives.
The film is told largely with Colin Farrell's character Patrick as the eyes of the film.
Yeah.
It's first person. We see it through his eyes. But this is a film where the more I thought about it, the more I'm with Brendan Gleeson's character, because he makes it very clear what he wants and doesn't get that.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like that when I was sort of halfway through the film, but then the more you sort of sit with it and the more it sort of developed with me. Yeah.
And it's the question of why he wants that. Why does he want this particular thing to happen? And he's not being cruel to... although some people would say that he was in the film.
Yeah.
They say, that's, it's not fair that you just don't want to hang around with him anymore. But he's not. He's not being violent towards him. He's not. He's setting out very particular boundaries and saying, "This is what I want," and like respect that. And so I can totally see it.
And again, if it was a sexual relationship and these were the boundaries, you would be far less sympathetic with someone who like continued to breach them than in this situation. We are dancing around spoilers, I think we need to move on to Black Panther just in case. But yeah, I mean, this is a huge recommendation for me.
And it is also a recommendation for me, but with the caveat of I didn't love it, but I think people should go and see it for all the good things that I've listed.
Black Panther. Wakanda Forever.
Absolutely.
So this is the follow-up to the ultra successful 2018 film. It's been 4 years since that came out.
I know, a lot's happened.
So the plot is the people of Wakanda are trying to get over the death of King T'Challa, whilst also dealing with other nations wanting access to their vibranium, which is seen as kind of a weapon of mass destruction in terms of real-world terms in the film. The two things this film has to deal with. One is obviously the tragic death of Chadwick Boseman, who played King T'Challa, and that is addressed up front and very soon into the film, and then it has to go on from there. But I think the other thing that is really, really clear about this film is just how much of a cultural phenomenon the original Black Panther was, especially for black audiences in America. I mean, in America, this is still the 6th highest grossing film of all time. It made more than Avengers Infinity War, which was released the same year. It is maybe the year after? No, it was the same year. Yeah, this was the precursor to it. And so to go into this, I'm fully aware that the character of Black Panther and the land of Wakanda means so much to a large part of the audience of this. For me, I think this film is absolutely beautiful from the beginning. Within sort of 30 seconds of characters appearing on screen, I was in tears. And there is a very emotional send-off to the King T'Challa character, which takes place in the pre-credits segment. Then we have to get into the plot. And for me, I think about 50% of this film works. All the characters come back apart from King T'Challa. And I kind of wish I'd done another watch of the original Black Panther, because there's so much lore in the land of Wakanda and the spiritual side of the country that I was kind of like, oh, I kind of remember that. This references the first Black Panther film constantly in characters and things like that, and I was at some points just had to let it take me along on those. But a lot of the plot seemed like subplot to me, and I'd like to go into that. But what are your thoughts on the film?
It was really interesting because I think for the first time tonight, talking about film, we're in total agreement. So everything that you said, I completely agree with, and it when you were talking, I was just nodding away. I think that it comes with all that baggage, doesn't it? Particularly that baggage around the grief and the death around Chadwick Boseman. I thought that was so beautifully done. I think it was incredibly emotional. You could see the people on the screen were feeling it as well. I don't think there was much acting going on when you were having references to his death. And I thought I really thought, without saying anything around how they've plotted it, I thought the way that they've dealt with his death in terms of the facts of how he died in the film were really cleverly done.
Yeah.
And I was glad that they did it that way.
It would be very easy for, oh my god, someone's come on a time.
Yeah, we see he's in a building and he doesn't come out, and you don't have to show anyone running it, do you know what I mean? It's so badly done. You can just see it with you. If I close my eyes, I can see these terrible versions of how they could have done it, or just references to a particular way of someone dying. But this, I thought, was really beautifully done, actually. I thought there's a lot of truth to it, and therefore a lot of beauty in respecting what happened to Chadwick Boseman, and I thought it was beautifully done in terms of the scenes and the film. And then it goes forward 1 year later, and the film is really a lament on grief and on bereavement and how different people deal with death, particularly of a much loved family member. And you can see how certain characters really represent people who find comfort in spirituality, in thinking about their ancestors, in thinking about people who have passed before, and then other people who and Shuri, T'Challa's sister in this, very much represents this side of it, of saying when someone's dead, they're dead, they're gone, they're not putting their hand on your shoulder, they're not guiding you, they're dead. So I thought that was really interesting from the point of view of showing you all of those different sides and ways of dealing with grief. And then, like you say, you get into the plot, and whilst I find some really interesting thematic ideas within the plot when they're talking about who has the right to particular resources, how resources from certain nations are plundered by other nations who come and
it's quite a wild concept in the real world, isn't it?
This is it. I mean, the oppression of marginalised communities, you know, and that is spoken about totally within this film.
Yeah.
I respected that. I enjoyed thinking about those elements. But the new villain, I'm going to put in inverted commas, the new person who we are dealing with, the new characters that come in as potential threats to Wakanda, I found very, very difficult to get on board with. There are scenes in this film that really reminded me of a cut-rate Avatar. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I think there are some CGI pylons that didn't work for me, and I thought we might have got out of that with Marvel. I thought we might be looking towards something a little bit more nuanced, and there were certain things where it was just, more people jumping on more people, more fighting on more fighting. I completely agree with you. I wish I'd watched the first film before we'd gone to see it. I found myself quite lost at times. Like you, I went with it. I just kind of thought, I have no idea who this woman is, but I'm going to guess that maybe she was some sort of love interest. You know, all of this.
I wasn't that far off.
I was completely, especially with characters. So yes, there were various points where I was like, I have no idea who these people are. I can't remember if they're in the first film or not, or whether they're new people. There is a plot point towards the end of the film that I found really objectionable. But I've heard other people talking about it, saying that it was the most thrilling thing that they've ever come across, or the most touching, or whatever. Just saying that it's sorted out their life for them. So I have to.
I'm trying to work out what this is. Is it what I think it is? Is it?
Yes.
I'm just going to do a thing.
Mark's just done a thing.
Done an action. Yeah.
And I
it's
think
good job on a video podcast, isn't it?
A lot of that does go into what you're talking about, is the cultural phenomenon and what this character means to other people.
Yes.
And because I don't have that affinity with it, because I like the first Black Panther film, and I enjoyed it, and I liked it for what it was. As you know, I'm not a Marvel person. I watch them and I forget about them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have that tie. I don't have that tie with it. But for other people it does, so I'm really, really sensitive to that. So I thought, well, it was a good few hours at the cinema. It was a bit of a roller coaster journey. And there are, one thing I have to say, the thing that really got me was Angela Bassett's performance in this film.
Absolutely.
At one point she does this speech, and it was the most stunning thing I think I've seen for such a long time. Like, it hit me in my body.
Yeah.
Like I had a bodily reaction to it of like, oh my God, that woman has known pain and just, when you just go, it's like a stomach punch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just got me. It was like I'd been thrown back in my chair. So she really deserves all the praise that she's getting. But again, you know, I came out of it kind of going, okay.
Okay, I'm going to get a bit more specific in my thoughts on it. For me, how do you replace Chadwick Boseman? You know, the guy has a charisma which, I mean, there's a reason why everyone expected him to win the Oscar posthumously the year in 2021, and they set up the entire performance for that.
And then Tony Hopkins came in and
and fucked it up for everyone. But this film very much chooses to put the Shuri character front and centre. She is, going back to what we mentioned on the Banshees of Inisherin, she is the character you see this through. You see it through her eyes. And for me, I think that the transition of her from a secondary character, almost a sidekick who's there for a bit of comedy effect at times and stuff like that, it didn't work for me. There are probably two other characters that I would put it on. Lupita Nyong'o's character, Nakia, and Dania Guerra as Okoye. Both far stronger characters in my mind. And when Shuri is featured front and centre, I wanted to see their experience rather than hers.
Interesting.
There are plot points, like, this is a long film as well.
It is long.
It's 2 hours 3/4, is it? And
it felt longer.
every single... There's about 4 plot points that go on simultaneously in the middle act of this film, and every single one of them seemed like B-plot. There is... You know, people are put in peril, and then they're just kind of got out of it. Someone comes in and goes... Someone
just comes
right,
and gets
off you
them.
go.
Yeah.
And it kind of shies away from the action sequences, which, apart from obviously it ends with one, which is fine. We know what to expect on an MCU film. At some point, they're going to do one without, and everyone will be shocked. But yeah,
I completely forgot there was because I'm thinking about the plot with the inverted commas villain, and now I'm remembering that Martin Freeman's in this film.
Martin Freeman's in this film?
There's a whole plot with, like, subplot with him that did not need to be there.
Well, they're setting up future things.
I know
aren't
they are, but I hate all of that. It's like, what's the point?
One thing that I really did like is Dominique Thorne's character as Riri.
Yeah, Riri Williams.
Riri Williams. Do you know anything about her?
No, but is she the new Iron Man, because she's wearing a suit that's very reminiscent?
Well, there may be a Disney Plus series called Iron Heart,
really?
which is coming out probably in 2023
I thought she might be like one of
2024.
like Young Avengers or something like that.
I mean, that's
what
what
we're
they are
setting
building
up?
towards.
Right. Okay. Well, fair enough.
It's not been announced yet, but
Fair
if
enough.
you look through every single Marvel film that's come out,
There's always a
young
junior
kid, yeah, along with Hawkeye's little friend, and yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was really good. I thought she was a good. I want to use the word avatar again, but that's because I'm thinking of something else. She was a good presence for us to sort of see through her eyes, and giving all the right comebacks to when people from Wakanda turn up at your university.
Yes.
You know, like saying exactly what you would say.
Massive, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, we've not spoken about the villain at all.
No, we haven't. Maybe because I can't remember their name.
Namor the Submariner.
That's it. Thank you.
Whereas, like, obviously, and it's not a surprise that this is the villain, so we're going to go into it. But yeah, he is Marvel's version of Aquaman. And Aquaman, before Jason Momoa came along, was the most widely mocked superhero around. And, I mean, this is just a bit more ludicrous. He's got little wings on his feet so he can fly.
Yeah, I didn't know you were going to go into that.
Well, I mean, it's character design rather than, like, any spoilers or anything like that.
And other people are blue. Its followers are blue, and it's just Avatar, isn't it? Like you can't get away from it.
If I criticise Black Adam for it, then I there's a film set in the water with blue people coming out this winter.
I found him a bit ludicrous, and I know it's not their fault that was the comic design, but you can change it, and you can make people look more threatening. I thought the actor was fine. Like, I'm not having a go at the actor, because it's a difficult job to come into this film and to play someone who is actually, you feel some sympathy for, and you understand that his people too have been oppressed by others who have come to their country and taken over. So you completely understand where he's coming from. But the way he is presented with his little pointy ears, and he looks like an elf, but he's got wings on his ankles.
His motivations change from scene to scene as well.
Yeah,
like
he
at
is
one
up and
point
down,
he's
isn't he?
like, oh yeah, and then the next thing he's a baddie, and
and you can't. And even towards it almost felt like towards the end they'd put something else in there as well. I'm not giving anything away, but towards when he's talking to other people, it's almost like, but yes, I might have said that, but I didn't really mean that, and I couldn't follow. Yeah, and also the people who are around him, you don't get to know them in the same way that you know the Wakandans, for example. Yeah, it was a 3-star for me.
I agree totally. Yeah,
I'm
I think
pleased
about
we're
50% of it
on the same.
works, and I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say avoid it because I think there's enough good work, but
and
I think
it's beautiful at times.
Yeah.
Some of it, like I say, goes into a CGI fest, but the beginning, for example, absolutely stunning.
But yeah, I mean, it looks beautiful, but
there's been a lot of love put into it as well. I think.
Yes, and it is difficult to criticise something that means so much to so many people.
Yes, yeah, it is hard.
Also, just a little PSA: if you do go see this, don't sit through to the end of the credits.
Yeah. At one point, I turned to Mark and I was like, everyone else was leaving. I was like, is there an end credit scene? And you just went, oh, there must be. There's always one.
But we went to see it the first morning, and there was
Yeah.
nothing on the internet to say whether there was or there wasn't. There's a mid-credit scene, and then we sat to the end, and we got music credits, and then we got like the thanks to, and no animals were harmed during this. And then I was like,
all the copyrights
ready, the music's fading out, and then we got Marvel Studios, and I was like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then the screen went black, and like the 6 people that were left in there just kind of looked at each other, and we're like, it's like a hidden trap where you've got to wait like for a minute of silence.
We're just going to wait, and then the lights came on.
Yes, but very slowly. So it didn't
very slowly.
feel
Wasn't
like
quite
it was
sure,
finished.
and then everyone got up and went to their homes.
Yes, but go see the Banshees of Inisherin for me. Go see Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I mean, if it doesn't need our money.
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
I think Banshees of Inisherin probably does. And go see The Wonder, apparently.
Yeah, please go see The Wonder.
But
or at least watch it on Netflix, because I think it's worth a watch.
Okay.
But yeah, don't watch Black Adam. I've not seen it.
Right. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for seeing us.
Thanks for seeing us.
Thanks for seeing us. Yeah, thanks so much.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The One Honeymoon Pod. And if you would like to leave us a review on iTunes or a star rating on Spotify, we would really, really appreciate it.
And it doesn't take very long. Just, if you talk about PSA, I went out and did reviews of other podcasts that we follow. I haven't done all of them yet. So if any of the people who we talk to regularly who have a podcast are listening, they're going, she hasn't left me a review. I am getting around to it. But yeah, I went and left reviews, and just to give it a go, because I always feel really bad when we ask for them and then I haven't gone and reviewed like my favourite podcast. And it literally did take me 30 seconds. It was really, really easy. So yeah, please do.
It's
please
2022 and we are explaining how easy it is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, but I've never done it before.
We're not even calling it Apple Podcasts.
No, we called it
iTunes.
Yeah,
God.
but yeah, I'm just saying that I had never done it before, and we have done this now for many, many years, and we've begged everyone at the end of each episode, please go and give us a review. But just to say, it doesn't take very long, and it makes you feel good inside.
Did you give us a 5-star review?
I haven't. No, you said that I should. You said that I should go and give us a review, and
Yes.
I was like, I don't think you can review your own podcast.
I think you can.
No, I can't.
Just put the 5 stars against it. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.